Hello and welcome to a new episode of A Woman in AI. My name is Kim Dressendorfer. I work for IBM as a technical specialist for AI, and I'm more than happy to introduce our new interview partner. She started her career as a software engineer in the topic of content analysis and is now a technical executive at IBM. Let's welcome Annette Opalka. Annette, thank you so much for being here. I'm more than happy to be that you are interviewing with me today. And why don't we just kick it off right away and you just start and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, Kim. Well, thank you for having me. I'm take pride that you invite me to this precious series of interviews with women in AI. And so, yeah, what do I do? I'm the technical executive of IBM DACH, and basically I'm responsible for technical sales programs for the technical community. I make sure that we have the right enablement and classes so that technical people can build a career. I make sure we have the pipeline of talents to really develop them and to coach them and turn them into, by the end of the day, distinguished engineer or even IBM fellow, which are both high technical ranks in IBM. So I'm basically, as technical executive, the technical manager. I'm not a practitioner, but we have a career path for technical professionals as well. And so I make sure that we have everything in place. We have the pipeline to make these people successful.
That sounds amazing. Like when you were a kid, did you always thought like you're gonna go into the technical career path? And like, did you imagine yourself ever being at that role?
Honestly, not at all. And I consider myself of a person who knows everything a little bit, but is not. I mean, there are people, who have one area of interest, and then they know that's it, and that's what they want to do for all their life. I'm not like that. I'm interested in many things, and I like to get the big picture. But if there is an area, what I say, that I would say is of interest to me, it is actually logic, and it's also AI. So I always liked math, math and biology and history and German. And so I didn't have a really favorite subject, but if I had to name one, I would say it was math.
That's so interesting. What do you think is like the one of the most fun things you experience with AI? And I mean, like you kind of were part of the first time we or IBM brought in content analysis. So you kind of saw the whole development of it. So what was your most fun project, for example, you had in your career?
So actually, well, there are maybe a couple, but I remember one which was really fun, and it was very early in my career. So when I was working as a software engineer, I was working on intelligent miner for text, and this was one of the first commercial text analytic products of IBM. So we did some classification, we did some clustering, and at the time it was hard to sell the technology because we always talked about technology. So I was wondering whether we could do something that would explain what this tool is doing. And so I basically hired a graphic designer. It was actually a friend of mine. And we developed a demo with tiny little figures who actually did the classification and the clustering of the document. So it was a visualization. And with that visualization, we showed how it would help knowledge workers to do their work better. And so it was really fun to develop the demo with this graphic or this visualization maybe with the graphic designer. And I think it was really innovative at the time because it was end of the 90s and nobody was actually doing anything like this. And by the end of the day, actually, Intelligent Miner for Text was withdrawn from marketing. It was not a commercial success because I think it was just too early for the market. But I take pride that the unstructured information unstructured information management architecture, UIMA, was actually a core component. It was developed within that project. And so to make sure it continued to be developed, we transferred this component from development to research. And I'm really proud that it still exists today and is actually a core component of the Watson text technology.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, because when I started, I always got told like email pipeline, the most important part. Without that, the whole text analysis won't work, because the whole structure in it and basically how it's built up is absolutely fantastic. So I didn't know you actually like were part of that development. That's impressive. That's so cool. And like knowing that you really like that's like the hardcore AI at the end, or like more the text analysis you built on. Seeing the now how Watson kind of works in the computer in the cloud environment, where do you kind of see the future going?
Well, I mean, I expect that AI becomes more and more part of our day-to-day life, and to a large extent, we probably won't realize that that AI is involved, because it's just used in the background. And I think it will basically become part of every industry. So I can't think of any industry which would not benefit from AI. I mean, even agriculture will benefit from AI, and there are so many use cases. And once in a while, I myself are even surprised about the use cases. So I was, for example, really surprised when I discovered that there are use cases with the blind dogs, or the dogs for the blind, and that even in that area you could use AI to support the education of these dogs, and make sure that you pick the right dogs, and to make sure that you get the right match between dog and trainer, to ensure the education is a success, and you really get a dog that a blind can rely on to be guided through his or her life. And there are so many fields where I think we don't even think of today, where AI can be applied to make a better life.
That is so true. And I mean, that's also the reason why we have that podcast, right? To just like show young people that there's such a wide, broad of variety of what you can do actually at the end with AI. A little question back to your beginning of your career. Like, how was the, let's say, diversity back in the days? Because nowadays it's like a big topic today. How was it, for example, in your studies? Were you like the only female in the class, or was it like a wide diversity?
I mean, I was not the only female in the class, but I was one of a few. And I would say it even had advantages, because, well, of course, the teacher always realized when I was missing, so it was probably not so advantageous, but there was always someone who also, well, who took notes and shared his notes with me, because for them it was also, there were these few females, and they just got the attention, they got a lot of help. So I actually somehow enjoyed it and did not feel like I'm not really integrated or part of that community.
That's awesome. Going from university to take the work environment, were there like some funny client situation where you got in there as a technical specialist and you were not treated the way you were expected to be?
Actually, not while I was the specialist. It was rather when I became a manager that I was not treated that way. So, and for example, in client situation, so you basically have a client meeting, and you come into the door, and they think you are maybe the secretary or whatever, or an assistant, but not the manager. And I can actually remember one team dinner where, I mean, my whole team were men, and I was the manager. I was the only female, and we had a team dinner at a restaurant. and they always thought I'm the assistant and I'm basically not the chef of the team. And when it came to the bill, they asked me, so who's the boss, who's going to pay? And I just said, okay,
Well,
I'm the boss, I take the bill.
that is hilarious. I mean, yeah, but it's always the same, right? We come into a room and it's mostly man sitting in the room, and there's always like this perspective of like how we got to prepare for meetings. And I always have the feeling, for example, I am scared to, or I don't want to do a mistake because I don't want to get into that situation where I have to say like, or where they can think like, sure, she's the female. Obviously she does mistakes. So I always want to be like hyper prepared. Is there like or like a technique or like a tradition you do before you go into meetings?
I mean, I take time to prepare, definitely. I can just say, really be prepared. But then I also think about, so what's the worst that can happen? Is there something? What is the worst that can happen? And even when I realize maybe I have said something wrong or whatever, and someone is correcting me, I just admit it. Or I also admit that there is something I don't know, and I just said, I don't know, I can't answer the question, but I take it. Let me come back to you. Or if someone is correcting me or claiming that the opposite or whatever, I just say thank you for bringing it up. I have different information or other information, but let me see that we get a clarification, and maybe things have evolved, or I haven't heard of it yet, or whatever. I mean, it's not. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, because everybody makes mistakes. I think the best advice is, accept that you've made a mistake. Because if you don't admit that you've made a mistake, I think that's it. When you start to look stupid.
I like that, because I always have the feeling when we like the whole topic of making mistakes become just such a negative topic. I also think like if you want to get better, you got to make the mistakes. Otherwise, you don't learn out of it. And let's be real, like no one is perfect, and no one does something or starts a career and just like doesn't make any mistakes. It should be part of the project, and also the like whole development. And I also have the feeling sometimes it would be so nice to just have like weekly meetings of where you say like, what did you do wrong this week? Just to kind of like talk about it. And otherwise the awareness just won't come up and you won't learn.
No, and actually, I think it's important to see that and to admit that. And we have just introduced fun nights, which is an abbreviation for fuck up nights, where you can really talk about things that you've done wrong and that didn't go right or whatever. Because I think it's really also important to talk about your failures, because when do you learn most? You learn most from your failures. So of course it's great to share success stories, but it's also good to share your failures. And sometimes, when you talk about it, you can even laugh about it. So I think there is nothing wrong with making mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Generally, I would say there is no right or wrong. It's just a way you do it, and that's how it is.
Do you have one part or in your career and life where you say like, oh, I really like, that was bad, where you kind of that way, sorry for my language, like fucked up and realized, okay, that was a project I completely kind of like misbuilt, but then had a learning path behind it?
Well, I just had recently a learning path. And that was, I mean, I had to build up a new team, and we had planned a team meeting and a gathering to come together so that the people get to know each other. And this team meeting never happened because of Corona. So what I did, I just continued to work with them on the topics, on the content, on the project, to I just accepted it. Okay, we can't meet face by face. But looking back, I realized maybe I should have done something even virtually, just around teaming, so that the team gets to know each other. And I haven't considered it because it was not a team that was co-organized and co-located. I mean, they just came together as a team, and they still had their own head. And maybe I would have considered it if it was a team that would basically report to me, work with me, stay with me for a longer term. But this was an ad hoc team, and looking back, I think that's something that I would have done differently, because I think it's really important for a good collaboration that you understand the other people, not just from their technology background, but also from their personal background, what they like, what they do, where they come from, and to understand also the diversity that you have in the team, and the diversity not just from a skill and knowledge point of view, but the diversity from the different backgrounds as well, because that helps to build trust and to improve the collaboration.
That is amazing. Yeah, that is really important, especially like the communication key. So I am the lucky one who can call you my mentor. And I mean, there's a lot of other people too. And it's been a really like a lot of fun getting mentored by you, because just like share your knowledge and experience, and kind of like how kind of like what you just shared, you share that with me too. And what is something you tell always your mentees? Like, is there something you say like, that's something I stand for and that's what they need to know?
Is there some one advice that I give them always? I mean, one advice always is be authentic. Yeah, because not being authentic is really stressful. I mean, yeah, trying to be someone else or trying to be different than you really are is exhausting. So always be yourself. I think that's an important piece of advice. And then consider, don't be afraid of leaving your comfort zone. Because when you leave your comfort zone, that's when you begin to grow. And sometimes you look back and realize how easy it was by the end of the day. So if you stay within your comfort zone because you're afraid to take on something new, you will not grow. And if you want to grow and develop your personality and your career, you have to take risks.
That is so true. If just imagine the following scenario, just imagine it's like a young girl sitting watching our podcast right now, and she doesn't know if she should, for example, do the career in AI, and she is at that step right now. What would you give her as an advice, especially from your perspective as a technical executive, being through the whole part of career steps?
So I think AI is an area where everybody can find a role, whether you're the one who is more technical and want to program, you can have a role. If you are more a translator from business requirements to technology requirements, you can have a role. So I mean, there are many different roles, and I'm pretty sure everybody can find a role there. And then what I've realized and what I've seen in IBM, and I really like that there is a team of women who are programmers, And they have started an initiative to teach Python to women who are not in a technical job or a technical profession. Maybe they are in sales, but they are not that technical. Yeah, maybe they are in a completely other function. They even had people from finance, and they offered this Python class for women. And there were women who just, I mean, they were curious. They tried it, and they realized, well, it's easy. It's not magic, and they just they can do it. And I would just start to do research online. There are so many different classes and learnings where you can take a sneak preview to find out. And actually, what I would also recommend, because there are a lot of local teams. So I know here, for example, in Stuttgart, there's a young group of females who have established kind of a community where you can go. I think they meet Wednesday nights, where you can go and with your programming problems, and you find people there to discuss. So I think that's it's always easier to start with something if you have role models and people who are doing it already. And then last but not least, don't consider AI to be something where you sit in your room and you work in the dark without talking to people. It's extremely interactive. It's extremely interactive. Also, as a programmer, it's extremely interactive. As a data scientist, it's extremely interactive. So just give it a try.
I like that. Where do you go for yourself to learn? Is there like some platforms like YouTube, you just go casually and check out learning platforms?
I mean, I use a lot the IBM internal learning platforms, but I check out platforms like Coursera as well. And so there's I mean, even YouTube has good learning videos for content. If you want to get more hands-on, yeah, then you rather go to Coursera or a comparable platform. But that's where I usually go.
Yeah, that's cool. From like the perspective of a woman in AI, right? Because you always get a lot of stigma of like, we gotta be the perfect woman, the perfect career woman, have the perfect body, be perfectly fit, always look good. Are there some advices, especially for young girls, you would give?
So the question is, am I the best one to give advice here? Because I mean, I personally, I think that the point is, it's not important to be perfect. It's not, don't take yourself as responsible for everything. Rather go and ask for help and to get support. There's nothing wrong with asking for help, and even when it's when you feel your workload is overwhelming, then maybe it is too much, and you just need to talk to a colleague or to your manager to see whether we can offload something or there's someone who can help you. And then I think one really important advice is, if you have the feeling that it's becoming overwhelming because you still try to be perfect in every area, make sure that you recharge your batteries. Think about, what is it that makes you happy? When do you feel most comfortable? When do you feel home? How do you recharge your batteries? And make sure you take enough time to actually do that. And I mean, I personally myself, I have to admit, I haven't done it properly for the last couple of months, but now I have decided I will take a break. I will take a leave of absence for 3 months to actually recharge myself. And I think it's really important, in no matter what you do, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that if there is a lot of workload, to prioritize balance and to get support, and also to make sure you take the time off at the weekends, in the evenings, maybe even during the day, to do something that's good for you, and that helps you to recharge your batteries.
That is so important, because without a healthy life-work balance, you at the end you won't have fun at the end of working, and then you won't be as successful.
Yeah, and actually something that I really like about a job in technology or AI or IBM or whatever, I think it's an industry where you have a lot of flexibility and freedom. So in times where I look well after myself, even though I haven't done it so well for the last couple of months or a year, but in times when I really take good care of myself, I mean, if the weather is like today, I just take breaks in the afternoon, go on my mountain bike, take a tour through the forest, and then come back in the evening and maybe do still some work, some presentation or email or whatever in the evening when it's getting dark, because I have just the flexibility to do so, and I do it and I talk about it. I try to be a role model there and encourage others to do so as well. And I think that is something, a flexibility that we have in at least in our industry, or at least at IBM. And I think that's something that's really beneficial.
It is. I mean, I'm literally the same. I'm like, okay, the weather is too nice to just sit in front of the laptop today. I'm gonna go. So you're talking about mountain biking. What is the most fun about that?
What I like really about mountain biking is, I mean, I do single trails, and I also with the protectors, and so and well, I don't really do big stumps, but I do big steps, things like that, nature trails, and what I really like about it, I mean, when I on my mountain bike, I have to, first of all, I use my full body. I have to focus on what I'm doing at that moment, at that point in time. So my thoughts can't go, oh, what's going to happen tomorrow, or is there something I forgot to do yesterday? I'm in the present. I'm in the now, and that's what I'm enjoying a lot. And of course, you are out in nature, and usually I do it with friends. So that's the great thing about mountain biking.
That's a good hobby, I would say. Like full downhill, just like how you see it. That's impressive. I would be so scared to do that. I'm like the more like I'm gonna play on my field and just do a little team sport.
It's actually, the bike is doing a lot for you, and you just have to trust in yourself and into the bike. And I mean, usually it gets critical when you get afraid and you start to think too much about it. Of course you have to be concentrated, but you have to be concentrated to watch what's ahead of you, and to do the right body movements on your bike. But yeah, just let it go, just let it flow, and then it's fine. And of course sometimes you don't, and then you go off bike, and I had some really bad injuries as well, but you know, they heal again, and then and whenever you have a bad injury and you come with some, I don't know, a new scar or whatever, there's a story to tell.
That is so true. Do you use an app or something to track yourself?
Well, I use Garmin to plan my tours. Well, if I go biking somewhere where I'm not familiar, I mean, not when I go around Stuttgart, because that I know it in and out. But if I go somewhere else, I use Komoot to plan my trips, and then I download the track and load it on my Garmin device. So that's yeah. So there are two apps or tools that I'm using to plan my mountain bike trips.
What is your favorite app on your phone?
On my phone, actually, I mean, the app I use the most, I would say is Google. If you ask for my generally favorite app right now, I have to admit, even though I don't it's Amazon Prime. I don't want to do a lot of advertising here for Amazon, but it's Amazon Prime, and there's a series I just love. It's called This Is Us, or das, I think it's called Das ist Leben in German. And I really like this show because it really is like life is, with very diverse people, with very human problems and interactions and emotions. So it's I think it is how life is, and sometimes I think this is exactly how it is in my life. It's in my private life, in my business life. So this is just life, and I love to watch it. So I can only recommend it.
So This Is Us on Amazon Prime. We're going to write that in the show notes that everybody start watching it. Annette, so many thanks to you for joining us for this interview. It was absolutely a pleasure. For everyone listening, we're going to write everything down. Annette, what is a way for people to reach you if they have more questions?
Well, you just can connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm Annette Opalka on LinkedIn, or you can also send me an email. So my email address is opalka@de.ibm.com.
Make it more complicated, IBM there.
but maybe you get my attention faster if you connect with me on LinkedIn.
That sounds amazing. Thank you so much again. Enjoy your day. I hope you're going biking today because it is a lovely day. And
I'm just back from running, so no biking today. But it's only one day between now and the weekend, and I definitely will bike at the weekend.
Awesome. Well, have a fantastic day. Thank you so much, Annette.
Thank you so much, Kim, for having me.